right, hi everyone. Thanks for joining. My name is Patty Smurf, and we should be here for the monthly office webinar. This month's topic is creating charts in Excel. Um, so we'll get started here. I know we'll probably have a few more folks joining us, but I just wanted to get started. I have muted the audience just to cut down on any background noise that we might have. So if you do have any questions, just please type them in the chat window. I'll be more than happy to answer them there, or if you just want to talk, just let me know and I will unmute you. Just let me know via chat and I'll unmute you. Um, so again, we should be here for the monthly office webinar. Today's topic is Excel charts. The screen that you see up now is showing all of our great partnerships, Microsoft, Sofo, Cisco, some of the great companies that we partner with. Should Simplex-IT be your IT department? We sure hope so. So if you can answer yes to any one of these questions, please let us know, and we're more than happy to help you out. I see that we have a few existing clients on the line, so that's wonderful. We do have some upcoming events for 2016. We have, I should have updated this because we had our annual picnic yesterday, but you can tell that I did the slides a couple days ago, so I haven't removed that yet. But we had a nice time at our picnic. If you came out, I hope you enjoyed it as well. We're, for those of you that aren't familiar with our location, we're in Northeast Ohio, and it has been very warm and humid, and we had a severe thunderstorm right at the beginning of the picnic. So
is now joining.
Luckily, we had indoor accommodations yesterday as well, so we stayed nice and cool and dry and had a good time. And then, of course, today we're talking about charts in Excel. Our PM webinar is next week, and we'll be talking about how to build a project team. So if you use Microsoft Project or Project Online, please join us for that. It'll be a great little topic on building your project team. September 8th, which is our next webinar, we'll be talking about Skype for Business and how it ain't just for video calls. So I love this because there's a lot more that you can do with Skype for Business than just make a video call. So a lot of people still think that it's, just for calling your friends. But for example, we're doing this webinar using our Skype for Business. So there's a lot more that you can do. So we'll talk about that in September. Our PM webinar in September is going to be an Office 365 again. And that's back by popular demand. We did just a little intro webinar a couple months ago on Office 365 Planner, and got some great feedback. Everybody loved it. So we're just going to do that again, maybe get into a little bit more detail with that. If you're not familiar with Office 365 Planner, it's basically a very light project management tool. And I say project management very lightly there, but it's just a great way to keep track of lists of things that you have to do. So we use it a lot here at Simplex-IT for some of the smaller internal projects where Microsoft Project is, maybe an overkill. And I really like it. So we'll talk about that in September. And then in October, we'll have a couple webinars, but also we have another executive seminar. We did one of these last month on cybersecurity, and it went over really well. We had a great turnout. So we're doing another one in October on backup and disaster recovery, business continuity. So if you're interested in that, check out our event calendar. It is on our website. Just look under event calendar and be sure to register for that. We do have limited spacing since it's in our internal training room. So if you're interested in business continuity, certainly sign up for that early. And then I always like to say, if there's any topics that you want me to cover, I know a few folks have sent me topics that we've done webinars on in the past. If there's anything that you want me to cover specifically, please send me an email, let me know. My email address is just up on the screen here, so if it's an office topic or project management topic, let me know and we'll work that into our webinar schedule. For those of you that are familiar with Simplex-IT, you know that we are a managed service provider and a Microsoft partner. We want to be your virtual CIO and handle all of your IT needs. But you may not know that we also have two other branches. We have Simplex DBA, which Doug Tombo heads that up. You can see his email address on the screen there if you wish to contact him. But he's working on ensuring the health, performance, and usefulness of your corporate data. And then, of course, Simplex PM is the branch that I head up, and I'm trying to help project managers at some of the small to mid-sized businesses work on their project management like the big guys do. So a lot of the same disciplines come into place, whether you're working at a large corporation or small to mid-sized company. So we do that through training, mentoring, consulting, what have you. So if you have any project management questions, need some help with your project managers or project management discipline in general, please reach out to me. I'd love to chat about this. All right, so without further ado, we'll talk about creating charts in Excel. I didn't want to create a bunch of slides here because it's mostly demonstration, so I know that probably doesn't disappoint anybody to know that you don't have to look at slides for an entire webinar. So the only thing I did before this webinar was I opened up a new Excel document, and I typed in just some generic information. I tried to keep it relatively small, just to keep it manageable for this webinar, but I'm sure that you probably have Excel documents with data in that you want to chart that are just huge. So basically, if you want to create a chart in Excel, you need to have some data to start with. So you need to have something to chart, right? So I just created a quick little chart here. I have just months, and then I have an amount. So maybe this is my revenue. It'll be my revenue in billions. So we have our month and our amount. And I want to create a chart of this data. I want to be able to see how my year went visually. Okay. So I've just selected all of the data that I want to chart. And then I'm just going to go to the Insert tab in Excel. Okay. That'll bring up my Insert ribbon. And right about in the middle of that ribbon are all of my chart options. Okay. So you can click on recommended charts if you want to see what chart Excel will recommend based on the data that you have selected. I'll show you how to do that. Or you can select a specific chart if you know which one you want. So one of the hardest things for me sometimes when I'm creating charts is just knowing which chart will represent my data in the best way. And there are people that can make bad data look good, good data look bad, depending on what kind of chart they use. So I always like to experiment with this. But if let's say that you do this every month, you know that you just want a basic column chart, nothing fancy, you can use the shortcut from the ribbon right up at the top. So I can click on that button. I'll just select the very first one just so you can see what it looks like. Now I haven't even clicked on it yet. I'm just hovering over top of it. And you can see in the middle of my screen that it's going to show you what that chart will look like if I select it, which I think is really nice because if you're torn between which type of chart you want to use, this will show you what they look like as you hover over top of them. So you can see how it's changing as I'm moving my mouse around. So I'm just going to stick with a very basic column chart. I'll click on it once and you'll notice that that chart is added to my Excel spreadsheet. From here, I can resize it just like I would any other graphic. I'll make it a little bit bigger just for webinar purposes today. Once I have the chart selected, I have all of my different chart options up at the top.
Is now joining.
So I can change the chart type here. So you're not stuck with the one that you initially select. You'll notice that there's some really neat filters, features to the charts that make it look a little bit more interesting than just a flat chart. Some gradients here that are really nice. So if I click on the More button, you can see it expands it even a little bit more if you want to add some color or background to it. And I'll just scroll up and be boring and pick the first one. And just to the left of my chart styles option, I can click on change color. So it'll default to this blue, but if I want to change my colors, I can. And of course, all of the thumbnails then change for all of the other options. So, like green or what have you, you can select whichever color palette you want to use. So really neat. You have all of your other options up here at the top, like for example, you can add an element to the chart. So if you wanted to add another axis or a chart title or another data label, what have you, you can do that here as well. Now the chart that I added has some of those elements already in it. So you'll notice that it knew, Excel knew to put my month each month along the bottom, and then knew to chart my data. And the column name for the numbers that I wanted to chart was amount. So it made the chart name amount, or the chart title, I should say, amount. Now that's probably not, the greatest title. So since I already had one, I don't have to add one. I can just edit the one that was already there. And I can say revenue, let's say 2015 revenue. Now, if you wanted to call out a certain area of the chart, let's say that you like the fact that all of these columns are green, but you really want to highlight this one because this was your big month. May was your big month. You'll notice that if I click on any one of these columns, it selects all of my columns for me. Okay? And that's how I can change the color of all of the columns. In addition to changing it, up here, I can select all of them and change the color here by clicking on the color option. And I can change it to orange, let's say.
Laura
But
is now exiting.
Let's say that you don't want to change all the columns, you just want to change the one, like I was saying. You want to call out this May. In that case, just double click on May. You'll notice if I do a single click, it selects all of them, and a double click will just select the one. So now I can right click and I can choose my fill or my outline. And let's say I want to change my fill color, and I want to change that one to green. Let's say. And there, it stands out a little bit more. Now that same thing applies for every element that you see here. So for example, I can just double click on the background, and if I right click, I get my shortcut menu. Now a lot of these options are the same as what's along the top, so it's up to you if you like choosing the options from the ribbon, or if you're a right clicker. There's no right or wrong way. Luckily, Microsoft gives us lots of ways to do the same thing. I like to right click. So I just right clicked here, brought up my shortcut menu, and here I can select the option that says Format Chart Area. And that just gives me some formatting options for the background. You'll notice that it popped up over on the right. So whatever I have selected will show me the options that I have for that area. So in this example, I can change my fill. You'll notice that I might want to say no fill, and that gets rid of my beautiful gradient. So I don't like that. I'm going to click undo. I kind of like having a fill. If you wanted a solid color, you can select solid, and then of course you can pick your color. Defaults to blue. Maybe I want a little bit lighter blue. You can have a border, and then you can modify this, change the transparency, the width of your border, even the way that the joins look. So very customizable. You can change almost everything within the chart. Now that was the background color and formatting. Now you can tell that I have like a subset of the background selected, it looks like, and this is called the plot area. So this is actually the area where your data is plotted. So here you can change this as well. You can change this to a fill. Maybe I want this to be a little bit lighter color. You can see there it stands out a little bit. You can give it a border, change the color, and what have you, all of these options here. Any other changes that you wanted to make? If you wanted to change, let's say, the months along the bottom, if you just select that, you'll notice that over on the right, the format axis appears, and all of your options for your access formatting will be here as well. So you can change the fill in the line, any alignment. Now that we have text here, you can change the direction of the text. Sometimes folks will do, text that's vertical to save space if you have to get a lot of text in there. And then you have some different column options. Sometimes tick marks are nice in between the values. You may want to show labels at certain intervals. So almost everything can be changed here within the chart. If you decide that you don't like this chart anymore, you can just select it and press delete, and that will remove the chart entirely. So just to reiterate, we selected the data. We went up to the Insert tab, and we clicked on the shortcut here in the Insert ribbon to insert a column chart. Now the other thing that you could do, instead of selecting one of the shortcut options here, you can click on the little button in the lower right corner to bump out all of the chart options. It'll immediately show you which charts are recommended based on your data here. And you can click on each one of these. And notice these aren't just thumbnails or static images like they used to be. This is actually my data. So it's showing me if I select this chart type, this is what my chart is going to look like, which is really neat. If you don't want to go with a recommended chart, you can always click on the All Charts tab, and that'll show you all of the charts that are available. So here you saw the column chart that we selected before, and here you can see it with a little bit of color. I'm just hovering over top of these so that they zoom in a little bit for me. If I want to select a pie chart, that's what it'll look like. And then I can select options for my pie if I want a 3D pie, or if I want to bump out a piece of the pie, or donut, which is basically a pie with no middle. So let's say that I want the 3D pie. I'll select 3D pie and click OK. And that puts it in my Excel spreadsheet again for me. Now, once you've created this chart, you can copy and paste this into other Microsoft products. So sometimes I see people will just copy and paste them right into a PowerPoint presentation or an email, and it's very easy to do that. So here you'll notice that I have some other options along the top here. I can choose to show my labels if I wanted. Instead of having them along the bottom in a legend, I can show them directly on the chart. Here's a little bit different style. It shows the values along with the labels. And then again, I can click on the more options to see all of my options. Now, if I decided, now that I see this a little bit bigger in my spreadsheet, I don't really like the 3D pie. I just want the regular pie. I can use my change chart type option up here at the top. And I can go back to just my regular pie. And select pie and click OK. And that puts it back to the original pie. And you'll notice that some of the chart options change now because it's the pie type and not the 3D pie. Gives me a couple other options. So this one is nice. I especially like this for pie charts to show the legend and the value of each piece of the pie. I really like to be able to show that because if you have a legend along the bottom, especially with 12 different values, sometimes it's just distracting to try to figure out which piece goes with which, in this case, which month. So it's nice to be able to have both of those. Same thing applies here as it did in the other chart. Just because we changed the chart type doesn't change anything else. If I wanted to change my my labels here, I can click on them, and I can click in the option to change my chart style, if I wanted to change the style, or if I just wanted to modify the labels and the values, I can go over to Format Data Labels and change it here. So here I can say that I don't want any fill, I don't want any border, but maybe I want to change the text. Maybe I want it a little bit bigger. So I can just click on text options. You notice that there's label options and text options. I want to change the text. So I'll click on text options and I'm going to say, oh, let's say I want those to be black. So instead of the color corresponding with the piece of the pie, I just changed the font color to black so that they were all the same. Now that I see it, I think, I don't really like that. I wish I would have just kept it, the same. Remember, you can always click undo, and that brings back your colors. If you've already saved it and closed it, but you come back, in a few days to it and decide that you don't like the changes that you made, you can always go back to the style that you selected, and it will revert back to that original style. So if you play around with it and decide that you like it one day, but then come back the next and want the original back, you can always revert back to that. That's fine. And I would encourage you to play around with some of the different presets that are available. Sometimes that's a great way to just explore what your options are. I know that if you're not deliberately looking to change something, you may not know that it's able to be changed. So that's what some of the looking around through some of these different options will show you. Again, remember we changed the title to revenue in the last chart, so I can do that here as well. It always defaults to the title of the column where it pulled the data, but I can change it here to 2015 revenue. I can change the font as well if I wanted to modify this. I can change the font as well. I have some different options under Format Chart Title. So I can change the color, the text outline, different options for the text, as well as for the text box. And if I click on title options, it gives me a few other options in addition to the text options. So think of wherever it says title options or legend options, those are going to be options for kind of the box around it. And then there's usually a text options option right next to it. So these work as kind of a toggle. It determines what options you see down at the bottom. Oftentimes you can select your text and you can still use the text editor pop-up that appears in Word and Excel whenever you have text selected. So if you wanted to change the font, you can change it here. I'll pick Arial Black, and I can change the color if I wanted to, and the size here, just like I would any other text box. If you decide that you don't want the legend, this is kind of redundant in this example because I already can see that January is here, so I probably don't really even need this. I can select it. I can remove it just by pressing delete on the keyboard. And if you create a chart type and you want the legend, you can always just click on the little plus sign, and that will bring up the chart elements for you to add. And you can add that legend if you wanted to. You'll notice there's a little arrow off to the right, and that just gives you some options of where you want to add it. So if you did like it at the bottom, just select bottom, and we'll put it down there for you. I think it's a little bit easier to read on the right or on the left.
Allison Curly Harder
But sometimes it'll throw off your
is
title.
now joining.
Sometimes it'll throw off your title at the top. So just keep an eye on that. If you change your legend, your title will still be centered. Some people like it centered over top of the actual graph or chart, and some people like it centered within the entire area. So just keep an eye on that. And again, you can just click and drag to move that title around wherever you want it. So again, just to recap here, we selected, let me delete this one, and we'll create another one. So just to recap, we selected the data that we wanted to chart. Now keep in mind, I don't have to select all of the data. So if you just want to chart the first few months, you can just select a subset of the data that's available in your spreadsheet and go to Insert. You want to look at the Charts option here. You can select a shortcut chart type. You can look at the recommended charts, or you can click on the See All Charts option to bump out all of your options. And then this will show you your recommended charts in the first tab, where you can click to actually see your data in your chart type. And then of course the All Charts tab up at the top will show you all of the charts, so the ones that aren't necessarily recommended but you could still use. And remember, I pointed out how you can, this is not just a static thumbnail, this is actually your data charted. So it's helpful to see, as you're trying to determine which type you want to choose, it's helpful to see what it might look like. Although it's small, but it kind of gives you an idea of what it might look like. So you pick the type that you want, you pick how creative you want to get with it, and then click OK, and it inserts the chart for you. And then just remember, you have some different options along the top in the Chart Styles option, which has some pre-formatted charts for you. To the left of that, you can change the color. And then from there, it's really just double-clicking on each one of the elements to change it. Double-click on the legend if you want to change the legend, any of the axes, if you want to change any of the titles or axis titles. Here I have amount if I wanted to change that to revenue. Change that as well. And if I want to change the chart title, I can first half 2016. Oh, 2015. I think we were going with earlier, but it doesn't matter. So I can change the title here. So everything, if you want to make a change to any one of these elements, just double click on it and look at your options over on the right, or right click if you're a right clicker. It'll bring up the shortcut options here as well. Most of the time I would imagine that you'll be changing, the fill and the color, and sometimes the chart types. So again, you can change that once you create the chart. You can change it here in the chart type option. Also just wanted to mention, you do have the option to move the chart. So if you wanted to move it from whatever sheet you're in, you can change it to be in a different sheet. Just select change object in, or I'm sorry, just select the object in, and then just change the sheet option. I will usually just cut and paste, to be honest, instead of using that, but I did just want to mention it. So you can cut and paste, or just move it between charts, or I'm sorry, sheets. All right, so I believe that will conclude our webinar. Thanks for spending the half hour with me and talking about Excel charts. Don't forget, next month we'll be talking about Skype for Business and everything that Skype for Business can do above and beyond just video calls. So there's instant messaging, there's webinar capabilities, there's integration with Outlook, a lot that it can do. So we'll talk about that and show you some of that. All right. All right, thanks for joining, everyone. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll leave my email address here on the screen as you're signing off.
Jeff Sumner
is
now exiting.
Patty at simplex-it.com. All right, thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.